Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Skip Charge podcast. Thank you so much for coming back to join us again. And I'm here with my wonderful, wonderful co-hosts, Peter and Ollie. Pete, how are you doing? How has your week and weekend been?
Yeah, it's been a busy weekend. Just like the last podcast where we were talking about playing One Piece, the same thing happens this week. I'm playing One Piece. So I played in the One Piece finals, came top 32, so I made it day 2. Pulled a Luffy, sold it. So yeah, pretty good. The serial Luffy's instantly sell, not like Dragon Ball cards, sadly. But no, very good weekend.
Yeah, you like to hear that, don't you? Like a nice casual grand from the weekend of playing One Piece, get that master skill, just transfer it across to One Piece, body some people. Is that
Yeah,
easy?
yeah, it's a shame. I should have at least been top 16, I think. But it's fine. I mean, One Piece is a side game because Masters is my main. So I don't have no one in my team plays One Piece, so it's just me. And then playing on the sim or whatever. But no, just like last time, I was playing One Piece this weekend, and obviously it went really well in finals. So I'm happy about that. So yeah, I'm a bit tired, but obviously dedication to you guys listening and watching. I decided to come back. I've been back probably an hour, and we thought let's crack on with this, especially after today's spoilers.
Yeah, boys, a true professional. To the podcast game over here. Ollie, how are you doing, buddy? How has your weekend been?
I'm doing good. I'm also pretty tired, but for other reasons. I had my sister's birthday, so we were out drinking late into the morning, um, into the early hours of the morning, I guess I should say. And then I was leaving drunken messages to in support of Peter for the day 2 of the One Piece regional, of course.
Doesn't
Um,
matter how drunk you are, didn't forget about our boy over there.
yeah, dropped a couple voice messages and everything. Um, but yeah, no, I'm doing good. I'm still in my youth, so I don't get hungover, luckily.
Wow.
Yeah, can we have a moment for this, by the way? Like, we were planning the podcast for today, and this man is going out drinking, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just give me like a couple of hours in the morning to shake it off, and then I'll start getting some OBS scenes together, and we can crack on in the afternoon." If it were me and Pete in your position, we wouldn't be filming. We'd be on an IV drip for the next 3 days.
Yeah, it's so real. It's crazy. I mean, obviously I'm older than you, and like yeah, I've noticed it's weird to say, but yeah, as you get older, like something like drinking is crazy. You go from like where you're able to wake up and do a normal day shift at work to literally being on death's door for 3 days, and quite literally, like yeah,
Got
it's
to book a
horrible.
week off holiday before you even
Yeah,
want to think about like trying to do any
yeah,
more work.
yeah. It's really crazy how it happens. But yeah, and then what's weird as well is everyone will know some like older person who can just do it and just be fine-ish.
Yeah,
But yeah.
take practice and dedication to be a true alcoholic. Like,
But
yeah,
of course, no one should be drinking too much, obviously.
just like if you want to get good at card games, you've got to put the reps in if you want to be a successful drinker. The same way that if you play Dragon Ball, you got to put the reps in to be a successful player. Splendid. We are going to be going over a quick metagame discussion today. We already did a fairly lengthy one last week, but we did have the Top Cut September regional yesterday over in America. So we've had some results already in from that one. So we're going to give our little 2 cents on that. Then we've got Dragon Ball's Den making a spectacular return. This week it's Pete's turn to try and sell us on a fun idea for some legacy support and see if he can get the investment from me and Ollie in the Dragon's Corner. And then we got a lot of spoilers to do. So last week we spent about an hour and 40 minutes going through just green. And I could talk for another hour and 40 minutes about green spoilers. It is who I am as a person, but we're gonna just give our like kind of general gist of like how we find the decks. We're gonna try and trim that down a little bit because we've got all of yellow, half of red, and an SCR to get through as well, and kind of give our 2 cents on that one. So I think we'll get started with the metagame, gentlemen. Right. So we did have Top Cut events September online regional over in America. This was a 7-round best of one pre-sided Swiss event, and it was won by Kidku to like not really anyone's surprise. But a very interesting build of Kidku, and I say interesting with the best intentions because we all saw this evolution happen in Gogeta Sin, and just like Pete's been able to continue talking to us about One Piece for the second podcast in a row. I've somehow managed to stumble onto Gogeta Sin for the second podcast in a row, keeping my promises
back to
up.
haunt us.
There's no escaping it, man. I remember playing this stupid Sidri Mojito God Checkland 7 odd sets ago, and it's haunting me. But I digress. It's a red yellow deck. It's playing Almighty Resistance. It's playing both of the draw rapes, the Bardock and the Saiyan Instincts as well, and crucially plays the Goku BT25, the Goku and Frieza Apex of a Legend SCR as well. What's your thoughts on this, gents?
I must admit, it's definitely interesting. This is what we like as well, right? Because with the Kidku, that's what we're on about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I bloody One Piece brain just kicked in. I was just about to explain what I thought.
Red, yellow, and Nami now? What the hell, man?
No, because I was thinking about Apex, and I'm like, wait a minute. Sorry, guys. As you can tell, I'm very professional.
Go on.
It's an interesting deck, and again, this is what I love about Dragon Ball, and also what I love about people that spend time exploring. Because if you said to me, ever, like I still don't think personally Apex is the correct secret rare, but obviously he still won the event, right? So it must have done something. So like the fact is that's in there is interesting and crazy good, I guess. But obviously the main approach is the counter. Now personally, like I would prefer that with the triple striker, the one where you can evolve on a swing from, you swing with 30k, but that's probably too much energy.
Yeah, that'll be what, 5 energy in total?
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe Apex is the correct one because obviously with the quad strike, dude, you need mono energy. So maybe it is the correct secret rare for it. But it's so interesting, and I like the fact like someone else has explored something different because I never saw this coming. I wonder if it's worth doing the bulls instead for the yellow instead of the ape.
That was something I was gonna mention, the Dragon Balls, and then you can play the yellow skillless 5-drop, right? Or like but then you can't
even
walk
outside
with
that,
the
you
warp
still
land
draw.
is the issue.
Yeah, but it's only mirror, right? That's the only
No, the check land that you need to warp a yellow and a red card from your drop.
Yeah, and the yellow ball locks you out of being able to warp anything from the drop, right?
Yeah, because I the first thing I did when I looked at this list and saw that the yellow cards were just the apes, I was like, I feel like there has to be some yellow cards that are better than that like have a bit more general synergy in the deck when they're just drawn on their lonesome. But yeah, I don't know what they'd be. I feel like that's the main thing I'd be interested to look into, is if there's any like decent yellow skillless support outside of the apes and the balls that work in the deck.
I feel like it's quite a smart move, and the reason I say it's a smart move is that Kidku quite famously keeps a bit of a lower hand size. And if a lot of people are playing, like we've talked about Reboot Cell last week, for example, and like how green was kind of on the rise again. And one of the worries as a Kidku player is if you don't finish the game in time, you will have your hand taken away from you and run out of defenses really quickly, and that's kind of how you lose the game. So between the choice of like, like the one cost draw rate, meaning you can keep energy efficiency, the two cost one in a more long drawn out game against a deck that wants to go long and grind you out like a more controlling list. And then Apex as the SCR draws you up to 7 if you lose your hand as well. So you can have like a hyper aggressive turn where you like Almighty Resistance them, dump your hand, Apex draw back up to 7, and just have like an insane kill shot turn as well, with the added benefit of having the apes to like maintain your hand size. Like you basically got
Yeah.
like a main board green answer in both those cards, and you don't need to worry too much about spending the energy because you're free playing skillless guys using the leader effect.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
true. And it also gives the deck something to do when you get floodgated, which I feel like it didn't really have before. It's just like an energy sink to draw up some cards when you're under an explosive dance that you can't push through, or you've been dormanted and you can't attack more.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I will say as well is I've noticed with a lot of the American lists of Kid Coup compared to Europe's, I think the American lists skimp more on skillless cards. So I noticed like they get away with like 4 or 5. I mean, me personally, I like to run a bit more on that. I don't obviously know every list in both areas, but I've noticed a lot of the winning ones in America, like for my personal preference, have a little bit lower on the skillless count for me
So
personally.
maybe if you guys are watching in America in your next event, maybe test out some black decks, a little bit of Shroomer Salsa, whoop those skillless from the drop, a little bit of,
Yeah.
Toa Twisted
Well,
Sister
yeah.
sideboard to start bottom decking them again.
Is it Burning Impact that people side into, like shuffle back to the
Yeah,
drum?
I have seen Burning Impact. Yeah.
It's time.
But no, I
that's
do
the
think
thing, right?
that's a big point that you make there. Is there's only 5 skillless in this list, and I have seen a similar thing that I see a lot of American lists running like 4 skilllesses, and
Yeah,
I feel
it's
like it's
crazy
a
low.
big thing that a black deck in particular could take advantage of.
Yeah, even like Legends list most of the time runs a low count as well. I mean, not to spend too much focus on caring about skillless count, but like let's use just a random raid and trade event in Europe, Kid Coup 1. I hope this is where I'm not wrong as I'm counting it live here.
It's gonna be like, oh, they're running 2 skilllesses. That's weird.
I mean, this one's running 6, so it's 1 extra. So it's only 1 extra. But then there's other one that came second. This is running what 4, 8. That one's running 8, and then the other one is running what 5, 6. Yeah, so it seems like in Europe we have at least 6 is like our minimum, and then we have obviously a top end where it tends to go, maybe like 8 or something like that. So, I mean, that's just looking at a quick couple of lists where, like, say, the Americans, they pretty much 4 and 5. So I think that's very interesting. And again, something you said, Ollie, where I think someone depending on what region you're in, can abuse that fact. Especially in America, you could probably abuse the fact they run a lot less skillless over there and counter the meta, so to speak. And again, that goes back to anyone that wants to understand meta to watch part 1 or episode 1 or whatever, because we talked a little bit about meta in that one as well.
Yeah, we did a
Very
bit of
true.
general metagaming, didn't we, as well? So
Yes.
it's worth having a look back at that first one. And a little shameless plug is that we are on Spotify as well now, so you can listen to this episode and the last one on the move as well. You don't have to be sat there watching us on YouTube. Returning to this list, though, I think what's really interesting about the points you've raised there, and we'll very briefly touch on this point here, is that with the black deck's ability to remove stuff from the drop, you'll actually get damaged more for playing a list like this if people catch on. Because if your yellow cards start getting warped, unless you can put Almighty Resistance in there early off some kind of discard effect, you could have your yellow cards warped so you can't check land, as well as having your skilllesses warped by something like Shroom and Salsa and Meki. And we did see Meki last week as well in I think it was like the Carta Magica regional as well. So we're definitely looking forward to the next couple of events You could see a couple of those black decks like Mechie and Shroom and Salsa in particular start to come up a little bit. But looking at a couple of other lists which are in this top 16, because again, we've got a wonderfully diverse meta here. We've got plenty of, we got what, three Kid Koos, two U7 Gokus again, kind of capitalizing on that result from last week, two Nova, and then after that, everything else is a unique leader in this list here. Um, Third place is something that we've already talked a bit about U7 Goku last week, but third place, SS3 Reboot. That's Heightened Evolution, that's the untapped three at the end of the turn. Ivo, who is very well known for his Hatjack exploits here, playing um, another, dare I say, pretty stally strategy.
And he does also run Hatch in it, so he's got his own love in there as well. He does run the Hatch SCR as well.
Yeah. What do we think of this? So Blue's not really been too prevalent outside of Boo, and Boo kind of doesn't feel like a traditional Blue deck. This is as traditional as a Blue deck can possibly get. This is just, I'm floodgating you every single turn. Um, what has brought Blue back? Ollie, I feel like you're our kind of resident Blue master at the minute. What do you reckon to this?
I don't know if there's like anything in particular. I guess when it comes to cards, the cards that have brought it back would definitely be this Gohan TP, specifically for the very generic blue decks, like SS3 is one of those. There's Gohan TP that when it's played you draw two, and I think you get to like untap at the end of the turn when you use the activate battle or something. You also get to
Main.
activate main, yeah. You get to untap two, you get to on play draw two, and bottom deck a battle card. It's very efficient. It's 3 energy, but then in SS3 that's free. And I also think the regional promo that lets you take your own life is very strong. Again, in these generic blue decks, decks like SS3 and Soul Striker, their main drawback has been that they need to awaken on 4 life, and that takes them a while a lot of the time. So this card just kind of generically cleans up that weakness very efficiently, whilst also generating Z energy and a bit of cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I will say as well, for anyone that has been playing this game for a long time, there was a stint where, again, I feel like when I look at this leader, it's only a deck that works in America, because there was a time period, there was a Gen Con event. I only remember it because I remember the Death Beam winner stamp being around the time. I think it was that event anyway. And there was this deck was doing really well. And that's mostly because the meta currently, we're not packing many counterplays to battle card floodgates because everyone is running extra card floodgates. So a deck like this does well in that because it's all battle cards, where when around that period of time in Europe, it didn't do so well from my memory, because we obviously were packing more answers to it. Again, I'm a little bit hazy, but I remember because I like the deck and I played the deck myself. But the hand size is too low. You needed the Boo Unison to really start gaining your hand back. And obviously this is where the new cards help with this, because obviously you're drawing 2 on the 3-drop Gohan. The 4-drop draws your card, but then you can Z-charge it, obviously take a life if you need to, etc. So there's a bit more value there. There's a lot more cards replacing itself. So even though your hand size is lower, it's not so bad. But the Boo Unison restricted to 1, to me, was what killed the deck. But it's definitely, I think good. But I think it just did well because it seems like it's an American deck and not a European deck for some reason. I don't know why.
I guess something that I am shocked to see when looking through the list is I can't see any. I don't think I'm missing them. I can't see any of the 6-drop Vegeta in the list. Which I feel like when people talk about SS3 and they're like, oh, the deck ramps to 6.
Oh,
and then you want to slam the 6-drop Vegeta and draw 4. Yeah, that's not in the list, so
Yeah.
I guess that's not the focus of the deck anymore. When I remember for a while that was like the turning point of, oh, I've lost all my hand ramping, but now
Yeah.
I just redraw it by back to back dropping these
Yeah.
Vegetas.
You like stabilizing the game when you do that as well, right? Like,
Mm,
because like you'd be getting battered for the first couple of turns, and then by the time you'd manage to ramp yourself to 6, draw 4, block, floodgate, next turn, draw 4, and then by that point your opponent's like, yeah, there's nothing I can do anymore. Like,
yeah.
stop this.
But I
I
guess with the
sorry.
fact that you can awaken quicker now with this Goku and the Gohan replenishing your hand size, I guess there isn't a need for the Vegeta anymore because you're actually able to just maintain advantage throughout the game rather than just getting battered in the early stages.
The
Yeah.
Gohan feels like a more like cost efficient version of Vegeta because like then you can do the Gohan to keep on drawing and then untap more energy so you've always got like 4 energy up going into your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
One of the points I wanted to kind of make on what Pete said about people not really having battle card floodgate interaction is that this deck also just doesn't seem to care for it either. It's like if you're going to Koisekai me, I'm going to go on minion you and not warp 2 because it boosts up to 25k when it's played. If you don't have them, I'm going to heroic prospect you because I've got 2 Z deck unison, so I'm always going to have heroic prospect live. Um, oh, you've got like a 2 cost counterplay. Well, my Gohan minion and my Vegeta ready to rumble don't care about it. Like you've got focus breakthrough ready to rumble doesn't care about it. Like there's so many floodgates in here that you get to just pick whichever one you want for whatever scenario you want to go into, which is what makes it, I imagine, really successful here.
Yeah. I am very surprised to see only one Dabura Unison in the list. Me personally, I feel like that card straight up replaces Beerus' battle card in every blue deck.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just good enough at drawing the Bunison anyway, then like it doesn't matter, does it? Right?
True, true.
If you thought of just drawing the one of like the one of regular 4 cost unison, you're fine. Like honestly, you were complaining about Bojack for the longest time, and you just weren't drawing the 4 cost unison.
You're right,
You
you're right,
didn't
you're right.
need this scene unison. You just needed to draw the 4 cost unison, man.
You know,
Um,
I was. Oh, sorry, Karen.
no, you go, Pete.
I was just saying. I think another reason why this is been popping off because it makes me want to play it again as well. Because again, I did enjoy this deck. Is because Heroic Prospect is really good right now. I've noticed, obviously, in the Z deck, we've got the 20k beast of a Z Unison, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this one also untaps an energy. So if we think about this logically, you untap 3 for your leader, then you untap 1 for this card, so that's 4. And then like if you used like say Gohan's effect, the 3 cost one, then that's gonna untap 2 as well. So there's really there's really situations where you literally spend your energy and then untap 6. Right, so 3, 2,
Yeah.
1. So there is situations where you untap so much that it's like okay, that's fine. And but even outside of that, you're untapping 4, right? So it's so good in that respect that because obviously Boot Unison used to do that. So untapping 4, then you've got your heroic prospects alive, and just naming one.
Yeah, seems like a really strong deck.
Yeah, I like it.
Couple of other things that we'll look at in this top. I mean, a lot of it is pretty standard. Like Android 21 topping is not really outside the question. I think we've seen this in America a lot more than we've seen it in Europe anyway. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that deck is what it is. U7 is what it is. One of the decks which is starting to creep up, and these are probably the only two that I'm really that interested in covering because the rest of it is some pretty normal stuff that we're used to seeing. But first one in 7th place is SSG Trunks Crimson Warrior, which is another black deck that's kind of been absent for a little while. This is one where it was like it got its new support. It was
Yeah.
really broken, and kind of immediately, like people just found new toys to play with afterwards, right? And it didn't feel like this kind of got its time in the sun necessarily. I think it had one event where it was doing really well, and after that, like I think the Mechie support got discovered or something like that, and it was like, okay, actually, we're going to play this instead as the black deck. But this deck looks insane with the new promo, the new 6-drop trucks that you get from your regional prizing, as well as stuff like the Chile Unison, which gives you the 2-cost Unison you normally play the deck with, and also gives you turn 1 access to the counterplay. So there's loads of really cool um, stuff that you can do with this deck. What do we think of this like in the meta at the minute as a premier black deck?
Yeah, I think it's definitely got some legs. It's one that I've been meaning to mess around with for a while, but I can't get my hands on this new promo. The promo is obviously insane. You can drop the 8-drop on turn 2 like pretty consistently now. The Chile Z Unison helps you get that early awaken, also helps you get the counterplay live earlier. Is just very tanky. I think, obviously I haven't messed around with the deck, but I think you can probably just cut the main deck Unison now. There's probably a build that focuses on that and a build that focuses on the Chile, but I feel like the Chile might be the way to go now.
Yeah, this build in particular plays just 1 copy of the Supreme Kai Unison, 2 copies of the Supreme Kai that pulls it out from the deck. But you're absolutely right. Like being able to just again, the Z Unisons have revolutionized some of these decks for you, where you don't need to draw into certain cards anymore to make your deck strategy work. You just like go into them from the Z deck and crack on really and kill people on turn 3, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like the deck never really got worse. It's just that other decks got better. I feel like this deck has now got enough stuff because it also gets a lot of support from just all the generic black stuff. Like it can run the Vegito package if it really wants to. It can just run the new Overrealm 4 that draws a card in combos from the Warp to get some Z energy going. I guess the only downside to running the Chile Unison is the fact you don't get double strike on your Z leader, but
Yeah.
that's not the worst thing in the world, I don't think, with the fact that you're able to get the counterplay live from turn 1. That's obviously a lot stronger.
And he's playing this like he's playing the Vegito package in there. This card was never played back when the deck was good, but there's 2 copies of the Pan Floodgate in here, which I really like because we just touched on it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are playing counters to battle card negates because they are expecting extra card floodgates. So
Very
you can
true.
actually get away with like procking this pan against a kid kill on a turn where they're trying to like push you and go in, and they don't have an answer to it, and it can just like shut down the turn. 'Cause it's basically like a topo, isn't it? Basically, like
Yeah, it doesn't negate the attack if my memory is correct.
And it's
yes,
only
you
on
are.
battle cards as well, I think.
Battles? That's not again.
I think it's on
I mean, if
battle
it's
cards.
only on battles, that'd
cards,
be
yeah.
really bad.
Yeah, it is
Wow,
only on battle
okay.
cards. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, actually, because I didn't even notice the pan. I've always been a big hater of that card, but I can see in a meta of Kid Coup where a lot of lists are maybe like siding Unisons for slower matchups. They probably won't side that in against Trunks, where they're super reliant on battle card swings, and they're also not running battle card counterplays very often, or like ones that stop the pan from coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played this deck quite a bit as well, and I am surprised. I mean, it makes sense, but I am surprised people have moved away from the main deck Supreme Kais a little bit. But obviously, I think because of the new support, you may as well now and as you guys have said, go with the new Gogeta package of like the Vegito counterplays and whatnot. But originally, when I saw the Unison, I didn't think people would move over to it because I thought they would want to keep the double strike on the Z leader. But obviously, I was kind of wrong on that case.
It's also just 8 slots of non-Saiyans that come out for 8 slots of Saiyans, so your Awaken becomes way more consistent too.
Yeah, that was one of the tricky parts of the deck, wasn't it? I remember like you'd hit like you were so victim to RNG that like if you didn't get the 5 Saiyans off the top that you needed to awaken in the first couple of turns, you could just lose the game on the spot there, and that always felt real bad.
Mm-hmm.
The last deck that's probably worth noting, which is on the rise at the minute, we're seeing it get a few more sort of consistent placements here, is Nova Shenron. We had Michael Carrick on it, 8th place, and then there was another one in top 16 as well. Nova's a deck that I think all of us have probably had like a little bit of a mess around with really here. The American lists that have kind of popped up are seeing a lot more. They're a lot more balanced in their deck building approach. They've got a few more floodgates in here. They play a bit more defensively. They have sim packages. Um, but then there's also like other ways you can play Nova in terms of like being a more like aggressive strategy as well, because you've got so much like aggressive untap with the Nova Shenron leader. What's our thoughts on Nova going into like the next set of tournaments?
I think I haven't. I mean, I've been mostly playing Oceanus out of the two because I personally like that leader more.
Yeah,
And when I first read Nova, I didn't really like the gimmick with the Z extra stuff. But it's kind of it feels a bit like, okay, you get like in this list, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go G to you, then I'm gonna hide behind Annihilation, then I'm gonna tap down your energy and just kill you. And I mean, I could be wrong because obviously we haven't got. I assume the games weren't streamed. But I really don't like that style, even though I'm a control player, which is weird to say. But I don't really like that way of winning, that combo deck feel.
yeah,
So personally, I like Salzino more because it's so easy to get the numbers. 8 and 4 is pretty much like every card you've got in the entire deck,
yeah,
basically. So I personally would go with the Gogeta Xeno route and do that. But I think it's a great deck, but I haven't spent enough time because if you asked me that question a month ago or whatever, I would have said it's a rubbish deck. So now I'm saying, it's got enough wins for it to show that it's good enough. But
yeah.
I personally like Oceana, so I would prefer that deck.
On that note, I feel like collectively as a community we were like gaslighted
Yep.
by Nova Shenron. I like everywhere you look, everyone was going,
Nobody thought that deck was good. Yeah.
This deck doesn't work. It stinks. What's the idea? What do you mean it plays it with its skills negated for the game? This doesn't
Yep.
make any sense. And then like it wins an event, it tops another couple, it tops another couple, and you're like, wait a minute, what have I missed here?
Yeah,
What's been
yeah, yeah.
going on?
I
um,
still don't understand what we've missed half of the time, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this list, 60 cards to me is criminal for this deck, but especially for one, I understand you want to pull the balls out, but
Mr. 50 cards over
like,
here is fuming. You're 10 cards over the deck limit.
if you're playing a combo deck where you're finding your one of Secret Rare and your one of Annihilator and that's how you win, I don't feel like 60 cards is a great way to go about it myself.
No, it is, right? It is. The reason being is you probably you probably never played a Wish deck, right? With 60 cards before. No, with 60 cards. Right?
Oh no, I always kept it below 60. Yeah.
Now, when you have 60 cards, it means there's less balls in life, right? Now, with this concept, that means there's less chance your Secret Rare and your Annihilator is in your life. Plus, when you do the extra, you grab 7, right? 7 balls from your deck anyway. So, in a sense, the reason to go 60 is to stop those being in your life. When you do your Z extra, so that'll be like turn 2, you've already drawn a couple of cards, obviously. And then you will go -7. Well, assuming none are in life, you then go -7 from your deck. So you're back to like a normal deck size. So it is clever.
It's a normal deck size +3 though.
Yeah, but by the time you've done it, you're back to normal size. Don't worry, don't worry.
Man over here can't deal with those extra 3 cards.
Yeah, I can't.
Mate, triggers him.
Yeah.
It's worse than me with zones, I swear.
But yeah, this list is all around like it looks very much like the Sin Shenron list of old. Back before Oceanus and Nova were even leaders. It just kind of looks like a well-rounded Shadow Dragon list, which makes sense. I'm a big advocate of the aggro version. I know, obviously, I've played it against Joe quite a bit, and he was very excited about what the deck was doing. And I've also, I think one of my proudest achievements in the last couple months is convincing the Giovanni Castellan the Mr. Sin Shenron himself, from Nuova is the shittest leader ever. I hate Bandai for printing this. They fucked me over with the Z Unison. It doesn't work in Sin. I'm so upset. To Nuova's the best deck ever. This is all I'm going to play. After showing him just a couple of games of how my build was working.
Shout out to Gio. Like, I saw him when the UKTC events a couple of weeks ago, and he was like buzzing about Nova. Like, he was like, I need to get into the I need to start like cooking up a build and everything. I was like, you've been oddly quiet for the first 4 weeks since this whole set's been out, bro. Like, what have you been doing? Like, what do you mean you're only just on the Shadow Dragon support now?
Very true.
I think he watched maybe 2 or 3 games of me playing against Brad. Shout out to Brad as well, one of our teammates. And Brad was playing some green decks, and it was just like, I'm taking you to 2 life on turn 2, and then Dormant does nothing. Sick.
You did that to me as well. I was just like, what do you mean it untaps again? What do you mean you've got like EX Evolve on the 8-drop and it just untaps for no reason?
Yeah, it's sick. 3 double strike swings on turn 2 plus whatever else you got.
Yeah, it is nice that we've got literally like both sides of the spectrum here. Like, we've got Pete going like, this has to be a control deck. We got to play it like tight with all the floodgates. And then we've got Ollie being like, I'm just going to put my foot on the gas and kill you on turn 3. Or I'm going to die on turn 3. I don't really care.
It is good because 100%, like, when I look at Legends list, that appeals to me so much more than, like, it's just because it's control. Like, yeah, it's like to me, this looks a better list. But obviously, when you're dying turn 2 or turn 3, it's pretty lame.
I think we need to get Legends on the podcast to just stare longingly into your eyes, Pete.
Yeah, mate, he's a fellow Invoker player and he's the world champ, so he's doing something right.
It's not the last that we'll hear about him this podcast.
It definitely won't be, mate. It definitely won't be, and it won't be the last time I ever say how great he is as a player. So
you go on about Legends like Joe goes on about Red Sin.
It's a love affair for the ages, isn't it?
True.
I think that is a really good place to wrap up on the metagame analysis. Again, we've gone a little bit more in depth there into what's been going on over the weekend, but that should give you all a lovely idea about what you want to do, because we've still got store cups coming up here in the UK. That's about as good as our event schedule gets for all of us based in the UK playing Dragon Ball. So
yeah.
I'm hoping over the next couple of weeks we all might actually have some, Dragon Ball tournament stuff to be able to bring you. From our own experience of playing in the Cups, but at least this gives you a bit of idea of what you want to play for your Masters Cups, and also the Spanish regional happening next weekend for any of our Spanish listeners as well. We are going to move on now over to our fun segment, Dragon Ball's Den. And this week, we have got the lovely Peter Dance trying to sell me and Ollie on his legacy support. So, Pete, start us off here. Which deck are you going to be supporting before I start the timer?
I am, believe it or not, because I know you guys were thinking, Janemba or whatever. This one, it's not even a deck I've really played. I've never played in a regional or anything. It's set to Zamasu.
Oh, okay. I'm here for this.
Yeah, the one that when you're awakened, you don't take life, you mill cards instead. I mean, I guess it's still a mill deck, right? Just different mill.
I had a fun build of this deck.
Yes, exactly. I remember we looked at that list together, didn't we?
Yeah, with the super old Gogeta secret rare. That was fun.
Fire. That was fire. But yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start the timer shortly. Everyone at home listening, we want to know again in the comments. Again, you can comment on Spotify, you can comment on YouTube, whether you would invest in Pete's idea. But Pete, you are going to sell both me and Ollie, see if you can get some points on the leaderboard, and you've got to sell our listeners as well. Your time on set to Zamasu support starts now.
Yeah, it's not even broken, mate. Right, so I've decided to go. I've called it, first of all, Fuse Zamasu, the Undying God. It sounds like the card probably exists anyway, but I liked that name. Anyway, yeah. So it's a 0-cost extra card, so not a battle card, which is quite interesting. Now,
Ooh.
it's got 2 effects. Permanent, I guess it's a permanent. I'm not going to worry too much if the wording is incorrect, but this is what it's trying to do. So permanent, when this card is overturned from your leader's skill on, the set 2 leader, so Absolute God for Uzumatsu, you remove it from the game, shuffle in 5 random cards, and then carry on applying damage. So the concept is, because obviously you mill 5 for every life, so it's kind of like regenning 1 life, but I balanced it because it's 5 random cards, so you don't
get
pick
to
them.
pick. Okay.
Yeah. So 5 random cards, and then obviously I had to give it an activate main, and obviously because it gets removed from game, you can't, lap it all day long. Activate main, and again, if your leader's Absolute God Fuse Zamasu, search your deck for Infinity Force Fuse Zamasu, which is the 10-drop animal of a SCR.
Yeah.
And then if you activate the Union Patora on that card this turn, I decided balance this, but I could have gone a bit deeper. It's -3 on the cost for blue, so it would be a 5 cost to bring out. You could technically go maybe a bit deeper and maybe -4 or -5, but I did, because it can kill energy and kill life. I didn't want to go too nuts with it. So in a nutshell, overturning, which is probably its greatest strength, you technically gain life. And then if it's in your hand and you use it, you can, instead of paying 4, 5, 6, 7 to bring it out, you bring it out for 5 instead. But maybe you could go to
You
4.
are time there, my friend. That is 2 minutes of, was that Fuse Zamasu, the Undying God?
Yes,
That's
I
what
am
we're
actually. I'm gonna quickly see while you guys are chatting, just to see if that card, because it sounds like it should exist.
Yeah,
and we've
it
just had a
does.
whole load run of Zamasu support as well. So literally that name could have just been picked out of that could have been like the new support names and stuff like that. They love
It
saying
really
stuff like
sounds
that.
like it could have been. They have some
I
edgy names.
I will say I was considering doing it as a hybrid, but last week or whenever we last did the podcast was last week, wasn't it, or the week before
Yeah,
when?
last week, yeah.
I already in my head I wanted to do set 2 Zamasu, but obviously by then we had the green Zamasu revealed. Or so, I don't remember the exact orders. Life goes too fast. But yeah, I thought, oh, maybe I'll like hybrid it with some of the others, but I'm like, nah, I want to do it just for set 2. But anyway, sorry, rabbiting on now.
Ollie, tell me your thoughts as a potential investor in Fuse Zamasu, the Undying God, and a personal enjoyer of Set 2 Zamasu.
Yeah, definitely. Although the version that I enjoy is not entirely Zamasu, it's not really focused around the actual Zamasu chain. I really like, I guess my thoughts are very in tune with that actually. I really like the idea of when it gets milled from your leader skill, that you kind of regen a life from it. That's really cool to me. The part that I don't like is the activate main, hilariously enough. I don't know if that's because I've always played it with the Gogeta SCR instead of focusing on the Zamasu stuff.
See, just bottom deck it, bro. Just bottom deck it.
Because also my concern would be like, what happens if you run out of what happens if you run out of 10 drops from milling all of them? That is very much a potential issue with the deck.
Hope
I feel
that
like
they get shuffled back in randomly.
yeah, I
by
hope that they
the
get shuffled back in randomly. Also, what does the 10 drop actually do? Does it
Oh, it's a beast of a card. Oh, let me tell you, it's a beast of a card, bro. It kills everything. It basically, what is it? When attacks, I think your opponent bottom decks a battle card, a card in hand, card in
Oh
life,
yeah, it's
and
the
1 energy.
energy. Yeah. I remember
That's why I
that.
had to balance
Yeah, of
it,
course.
because if you brought that out too easy, it's like that's crazy. No one's gonna
fair.
like playing against a deck that can.
So wait, you have to play
take.
it for 5, right?
Yeah, I 5 is like, because it kills energy. If it didn't kill energy, I
Yeah,
probably
of
would have
course.
pushed it to a 4. But I think killing energy is probably a bit nutty. But it's meant to be a fun card, isn't it?
That's fair.
We're gonna have to push you for an answer, Ollie. Are you going to be investing in Hugh Zamasu, the Undying God?
I think I'm gonna withdraw my investment, actually.
Oh.
I love the permanent, which makes me so sad to say. But the activate main...
Absolute scummy. That's fine. That's fine.
Those poor dejected guys on Dragon's Den just reminds me every time they've given this like perfect pitch and everything. They're like, yeah, but I don't like that, so I'm not investing in that. That's
Yeah, I'd meet you halfway in the middle. I'd offer you 500k.
No. All in or not.
He'd offer you the first part of the money for the first part of the effect, but this 5-drop Zamasu is like rubbish.
That's fine. I don't need his money. I don't need your money. Go away.
You know what, Pete? I love your heart. I love your passion for it. I am a sucker for set 2 support. Like anything that brings out one of those stupid boss monsters from set 2, like Perfect Force Cell, like that's just a bit of my heart. Discard your opponent down to 3 cards. This Zamasu deck was probably the first deck list I remember looking at. Like it was like a really old channel called like Kitchen Table Meta, where like a set 2 Zamasu deck. And I was like, this looks sick. This is the deck I got to build. This is amazing. I'm gonna give you your investment. I'm gonna give you your investment because I love the idea of being able to play the huge 10-drop Zamasu on the cheap. I think it can end games. I like the way that the extra card is built in to be able to like put your life total back up effectively.
Yeah.
The deck sustainability is what made it so, because like literally you'd like hit them down to 2, they'd awaken, and then you'd attack 2 more times, they'd just mill out the rest of the deck and lose. And like with how quick Dragon Ball is at the minute, they run out of cards in the deck anyway, because you need consistency and draw. So it kind of works against the way that Dragon Ball's evolved. So something like that I can invest in. So you've secured one investor. That does leave Ollie in the lead so far in this segment. So he has got 2 investments. Peter's got 1. I am next up to the plate next week. So that's going to be quite exciting. I'm going to get in the kitchen. I'm going to brew you up a little idea. It's definitely not going to be Green Cooler related. I've got a couple of ideas for a couple of decks I want to support. So I will be entering the den. Now, onto the bulk of it. Onto the bulk of our podcast today. I mean, we've already been chatting for a fair amount about the meta game here, but we have got spoiler season well and truly in full swing. We've got yellow spoilers we're going to go through first, which includes a couple of legacy support items. We've then also got an SCR reveal that goes alongside that, and then we've also had some red reveals as early as as late as today, basically. So, gentlemen, let's get cooking. Let's crack on. First of all, in the yellow spoilers is this the yellow Goku and Gohan deck. We're very used to seeing these guys in this color, but we're back again.
Oh yeah,
what's
I
our
forgot this deck
thought?
existed.
Well, that's probably a sign of Ollie's thoughts.
There you go. Ollie got us off to a great start with, I forgot this deck existed. Yellow Saiyans in a leader. Sure, mate.
Yeah. My brain turns off when I see them, honestly. I feel like this is one of those decks where I'm gonna have to play it to figure out what it's trying to do. There's a lot of stuff going on with it. You play 1-drops from the drop, you play them from the hand. The 1-drops kind of just act as cantrips on the board, I think, for the most part. And then you have this weird 4-drop Goku thing going on where you kind of move it into the Z deck, and then you put it to your Z energy, and you put it under this Z unison, and it just sort of goes around everywhere. And I'm just a bit confused as to what I'm trying to do.
So, it looks like it's just like a value engine. So you're adding face-up yellow Gokus from your Z deck to your Z energy to draw. You're swinging to draw as well. And then you awaken using the 4-cost Goku in play. Now, we will talk about this in a little bit, but there is a little bit of an errata issue, Bandai, with these cards that you might need to look at. but hey, it wouldn't be a set release unless we had a couple of those little bits of controversy in there as well. Um, the main premise of the deck, it looks like, I mean, I think the thing that's like kind of drawing my eye with it is this 8-drop Gohan, which EX evolves over a 5 cost. And whenever it's played or attacks an opponent's battle card, it switches to active mode and then chooses one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and switches it to rest mode.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And
Yeah.
plays a 1-drop at the end of the turn, which I think you can then start cycling into the Z deck and drawing more cards with and stuff like that. This card's crazy. This card is absolutely bonkers, and I think this is kind of the big draw of the deck because you've obviously got a 5-cost SR Gohan that you can evolve on top of, and you basically just board wipe ignoring barrier. Because it's just when it attacks as well, I think.
Yeah,
it is.
when it's played or when it's attacked. It's basically I want to say
back to
watered
the 8-drop
down.
Gogeta, baby.
It is
Oh.
watered down version because technically it's got no protection. So if you did a battle trick that killed it or whatever, then it's a bit different. Obviously, it's not the same as the 8-drop. It's not as good as the watered down version, and it is still a very good card. And the fact is, like, it doesn't need to KO it. So it's like, even if your opponent outcombos it, let's assume there's no floodgate or no battle tricks, that's it. Everything on the board is going to die that turn. Everything.
Yeah. I think the big downside to the card, like you said, is the fact that it has no protection. You see any counterplays come down, like a Steadfast Goku maybe, or any sort of mid-battle interaction, like, you know, any Bojacks you might be able to bring in.
Well, that's the bright side. To jump in, the Steadfast wouldn't affect it because of the auto. It has actually on play.
True.
Yeah,
Very
sorry to jump in. I just wanted to.
Yes, yeah, I guess Steadfast was a bad example in that case.
but we know.
Yeah, any counterplays that hit it. I guess the big thing about that is that it is an 8 cost, so it is getting around the black counterplays and the green. So, yeah, I feel like yellow would have had the best counterplays to deal with it, apart from Steadfast now not hitting it.
However, you need to get the 5 cost on the board, which does have deflect, but is also not immune to all of the counter plays as well.
Very true.
Because the 5 cost is the dual attack. When it attacks, you play a yellow 1-drop from your hand. You play it for 2. If you have 3 or more energy, you switch one of your active mode cards to rest mode. Play it from your hand. Choose one of your opponent's rest mode battle cards and KO it. This is a generic card as well, so it's got a nice bit of value built in. But that card 100% gets counterplayed. The 8-drop is very susceptible to any kind of floodgate because a lot of cards, when they board wipe, they just play and they nuke the board. If you play this and then they like floodgate the first attack, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to discard like 1 or 2 cards every time I swing just to try and mop up your board. That's like negative value in a lot of places. So I think it's a good card. I think there's some really cool applications for it, but there is a lot of ways basically around what fundamentally is the deck's main combo, which is trying to go 5-drop to 8-drop and kind of push their board in and kill them from there.
Yeah, and like you say, it is definitely a good payoff, but I think in the realm of today's game, it's actually not as crazy as it might look on paper. Because floodgates affect it hugely.
Yeah, it'll catch people out, but it won't be like, as soon as people know what the deck's trying to do and they know they're looking out for the 8-drop or the 5-drop in advance of it, like, I think the deck kind of, it feels like it kind of falls apart a little bit. There's plenty of value to be gained because obviously all your Gokus come in, they get sent to the Z deck, and then you draw an extra card. So maybe with the generic yellow core, as well as just using the 5 and the 8 as power moves, I could see it, but I think that like the gimmick is a little bit too forecasted. As soon as you played against it once, you're like, okay, I'm just not gonna like, and that keeps a lot of decks away from the meta, is that they do a really powerful thing, but people go, oh, okay, I know what it's gonna do now, and I'm gonna stop this play every time, and all of a sudden your like super strong deck can never do its super strong thing.
I think something that is worth noting is this 1-drop Trunks. If one of your Son Gohan childhood cards would be removed from the battle area by an opponent's skill, you can discard this 1-drop Trunks along with a card from your hands to keep it. So whilst you are obviously discarding 2 cards, that's a pretty hefty cost. you are able to get the chain down through perhaps the black counterplay or the charismatic villain that might come down,
Yeah.
because they obviously lock you out of counterplays for the rest of the turn, so you can't then follow it up with any extra copies to actually kill the cards.
Now, I will say as well, because I've actually been playtesting this deck. If it's the errated version, this deck is nuts. I can tell you right now. If it's errated the way we think / we believe Bandai intended it to be, this in my eyes is a tier 1 deck. That's how strong it is, because none of it's locked to energy requirements. None of it is limit 1. It's like, for example, you would swing with the forecast, chuck it into your Z deck, use your activate main, draw, play the Z Unison, use that to play the same 4-drop, and you just basically pop off so easily, and you're constantly attacking. Then you can swap into a 5-cost, because again, none of it is leader locked, and none of it's limit 1, and you're constantly bringing out 1-drops that drawing you cards. Like, I'm telling you right now, if it does get errated, this deck will be an option for finals, 100% guaranteed. Outside of that, I don't think it will.
Yeah, and let's touch on that errata situation there a little bit as well, because like I think as you pointed out there, Pete, like there's a huge like kind of value engine attached to this deck, but it's all tied to these 4-cost Gokus, and they're all printed with a 1 yellow. If your leader is a yellow Son Gohan childhood, and you have 2 or more energy, you play it, and then they've all got like swap effects, they draw cards, and they all place themselves face up in the Z deck, which is where you get that leader effect to place them into the Z energy from the Z deck to draw a card. However, the front side of this leader in particular, there is actually a yellow childhood Gohan from set 5, if anyone cares. But the front side of this leader is just a Super Saiyan Son Goku chowing down on some ramen or something like it's. You have to have the 4-cost Goku in play to awaken early and draw the 2 cards as well. So we're anticipating there is an errata in play there. So that it should be like if your leader's backside is childhood Gohan. But they just say if it is childhood Gohan, so at the minute you'd have to do some funky like other Gokus to basically make this whole deck work, which seems irresponsible. I'd say just wait for an errata.
Yeah, and also the other reason why we have to believe there's an errata is because the front side of the leader has the same activate main as the back side, which is add 1 face-up yellow Son Goku from your Z deck to Z energy, draw a card. Now, currently, I don't even believe any of the 1-drops can. There's not a single card that will allow you to have a face-up yellow Son Goku in your Z deck, because all of them require you to be childhood. And that's another reason why we all believe that Bandai did not, obviously whatever happened is happened, but like their intention or what they printed is not the same. Because why have that activate main there if there wasn't cards that allowed you to do that? It's pointless. Like, why? It makes no sense. Unless you're against like hit that's going to flip you back to your front side. Like, what?
Yeah, and we'll keep you in the loop on further episodes if we do hit. Like normally, Fashbinder's pretty quick to act on these things and let Bandai know about these certain issues, and like we had with the Vegeta from the Trunks deck last set. It was kind of that. Look, you know what we meant. Play it as intended. That you can actually awaken with the Vegeta. So
Still
we'll keep
waiting on my balls to be errated to work with Nova.
Can you stop talking about errata in your balls for 1 second?
Still waiting for the Limitless to
We're
also be updated.
Podcast here.
While technically, if I look at the Dragon Ball Limitless, technically there's certain cards that are like the 6-drop Son Goku is currently not limited, so you can run 4 of those in your deck.
Yeah, you'll see Pete just like on every like from the official site every time they pop up and they're like, "Hey guys, here's a new tournament coming out." Like Pete will be there and he'll be like, "So I can play 4 of the 6-drop Goku in my U7 deck, can I?" That's why it's coming back into the meta.
Yeah, because technically you can't have a random Facebook post covering the ban list. It has to be updated on their website. Otherwise, how does any because I play like let's say with One Piece. If I wanted to look at the ban list, I'll go on the website and find it out. If it's not there, then it's not banned. Simple.
There you go, guys. So scrap this deck. Play U7 for finals. They haven't updated the ban list.
It's gonna
But I mean,
be a repeat of last year. Let's go.
there you go. U7 finals. Let's go. I'm
Oh
buzzing.
god, yeah, that's it. Let's all bring Jaren, right?
Slide to the right.
Remember what we said earlier?
So
Anyway.
So Pete's really high on this deck.
Only with the errata.
Well, we're only with the errata. He's really high on it. Me and Ollie, not massively convinced so far, but I mean, I've been wrong about this stuff before in the past. So we'll wait and see how the errata develops and how this deck kind of gets on. But there's enough potential there.
I'm automatically biased against it for a yellow Saiyan deck, and my eyes just kind of start drooping when I'm trying to read out the effects.
That's kind of the same as me. Like, I end up playing a lot of like the villain decks myself, so I've given us a nice little segue there to go and start talking about Cell, because my brain starts leaking out my ears when I see a yellow Saiyan leader, but I start
This yellow Cell deck I'm hyped for, baby. Yeah.
As soon as we see a Cell leader, I'm instantly excited. And you kind of touched on it earlier, Ollie. This deck is very much like I need to get all these cards in hand. I need to shuffle up the deck and see how it plays out, because on paper, it's a mess, but a really broken mess.
There's a lot of cool stuff.
There's so many cool things. So, like, the leader has to awaken with a 1-cost Z unison in play, as a lot of them do. Please, errata kid Kulol. And afterwards, you reduce the energy cost of all of the Cell Games cards once you've awakened in your hand by 2 for each of your energy. So anytime you look at all these cards, look at their specified cost, because that's how much you're effectively going to be playing them all for. And whenever you play one of these dudes, like any of the Cell Games guys, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then place Cell Games cards under a card that you control for everyone in there. I'm even explaining it.
For every specified cost. So if it has 3 specified costs, you can put up to 3 of the 3 cards underneath it. If you have 1 specified cost, you check top 3 and put 1 under.
That's it. So yeah, always look at the specified cost. That's kind of the golden rule here. And then all of them have got like activate main skills that can be basically used from like underneath a Cell Games card. So they all end up like accumulating a bunch of different like cool effects, like drawing cards, resting cards, untapping themselves. You've got a Cell Games Arena Unison, which lets you draw 2 and then place 2 cards from your hand on top of your deck to like sort out that top 3 that you need to look at to start placing stuff under. And a -4 to just untap a guy as well. Like, there's some real strong potential in here. Ollie, I feel like you're cooking with this one. What have you got?
Yeah, I'm yet to test anything with it, but it is currently, I think, the deck that I'm most excited for out of this set. It is looking really cool. I always like when they make characters in colors that they haven't been in before, and like we've seen Cell green yellow stuff because of Successor, but we've never seen Cell just like as a yellow deck. It's very, very cool. Big standouts for me personally, big pluses for this deck. The 8-drop SR is very cool. Whenever a player attacks, so you or your opponent, you get to use a battle card from under the 8-drop in a combo. And then if it's a Cell Games card, you can activate its activate main skill at that auto timing, which means the 8-drop doesn't have protection, so it's unlikely that it'll actually trigger during your opponent's turn. But if they can't remove it, then they swing into you. You can maybe like rest some battle cards or draw some cards. But it also means for every attack that you do on your turn, you're drawing cards, you're restanding your battle cards again, you're doing all of this really cool stuff. There's a 1-drop negate, which I think is probably the most exciting thing for me. A 1-drop negate 15k Cell.
Blue players, man.
When
they just get excited about any 1-drop negate that comes out.
when it's played, you get to place up to one Cell Games card from under it into the drop and then immediately activate the Activate Main skill. So you can have turns where you go one drop negate with the Cell, lead a skill, puts a card under it, and then immediately this Cell auto drops it off to maybe rest one of the other battle cards that you're worried about, or like negate skills of the next one attacking. And it's also got an Activate Main to draw a card, so this is going to be a lot of draw power for the deck. I think this card is absolutely incredible.
This is the best card in the deck for sure. Like I jest, but this is the best card in the deck because, like as you say, you've got that like one drop that like you switch this card to rest mode, choose one of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode.
Yeah.
So you like play this. You've got the draw built into it if you need to. You've got the like negate the first attack, rest another card, all for one energy. And as you say, you get the leader cycle as well. Like it's crazy good. Like there's so much value to be had here.
I think there's also meant to be a counterplay for this deck coming out in the TP, which adds that extra interaction of like just triggering Activate Mains immediately on every window during your opponent's turn, which is sick. I can't really remember what it does, but it's along similar lines to the negate.
It's the same as the Unison. So on play is draw 2, put top 2 on the top of the deck.
Nice.
That is what I've seen the translation as.
Yeah, that's going to be broken
and then,
as well. It's a one specified again as well.
The deck also has this 7-drop Cell, which is barrier removal. So it ticks a lot of boxes. It's also a yellow deck that has access to the Gogeta Omega successor, because you have 8 drops in the deck and you have quite a few like high cost cards that you're just playing for cheap because they have low specified cost. And I also just love the fact that you're able to tutor with your top 3. You can reorder them on the top and bottom of the deck, so you can tutor your entire deck throughout the game. Very similar to Freezer Swap, but set it up so much easier than Freezer Swap.
Yeah, I love like another card as well, which is just crazy for this deck, and you can play it out using this Stonework counterplay, but you can like basically play this big 3-cost Z battle card, which is like keyword soup. It's like deflect, barrier, dual attack, blocker, and then you can put 3 dudes under it as well when you play it using your leader effect. And when it attacks or activates blocker, you place a Cell Games from under it into the drop and then activate one of the Activate Main skills as well. So, like, there's so much that this card does from the Z deck as well. So you don't even need to draw into half the cards you need. You can just play this guy out whenever you need to. Stonework lets you play it for 2. Stonework is unfortunately another errata card because it lets you play the Z Unison from your Z deck for 1 on the counterplay, but it only specifies it as Cell Games Arena and not as Cell Games Arena Greater Stage. So it's another card that probably needs a little errata looking at it.
Actually, with that card, I don't think there is meant to be an errata. I think you're just meant to put the extra card Cell Games Arena, the green-yellow one, into your Z deck, and then play that somehow.
What? You're trolling me, man.
Cell Games Arena is a pre-existing card from like the Ultimate deck way back when Vegex came out.
Mate, I genuinely just sat there for a minute, like, no, I'm certain that it's got to be errated. Am I about to get found out here?
So, I will comment on this deck because when I first looked at it, I had the same hype as you guys, but actually after testing the deck, I think it's trash.
Oh, controversy.
So see, I test, you know what I mean? I actually play this game, right? Shots fired.
Never gonna beat the washed allegations.
But no, I tested it and I feel like it doesn't draw. So like when I compare it to like say Zamasa in the same set, every time I'm evolving, I'm drawing cards. With this one, I'm not. And there's not that many that draws because a lot of the 1-drops, for example, they don't work underneath because the Activate Mains are rest this card, which you can't do because that card can't be rested because it's in your combo area or whatever. So a lot of the 1-drops that actually, like this one, switch this card to rest mode. Well, that's the cost. Well, you can't. So yeah. And then choose one of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest. Okay. So I don't feel like the deck actually has any draw power. And when I was playing it, my hand always felt too low. It was cool. I loved it. Like I love it from a thematic point of view, and I'm so happy we have a cell deck that is not all about absorbing 16 and 17.
Yeah,
Sorry,
true.
17 and
Yeah.
18. Like that to me is like the biggest thing I love about this deck. I love how it's just all about Sal. And like I say, I love the whole top three, put some underneath. And I love the fact you're not shuffling your deck because again, you got to think about this if you're in a, let's say you're playing in finals, you can't be shuffling the deck after every single card you play. Like it's just not, it's just going to be a waste of time because you're going to go to time every game. So I love the fact you're just looking at the top three, deciding keeping it at the top or bottom or whatever you want to do. Happy days. But yeah, my gut reaction is it's very archetype specific because of course you need cell games, so you're not as free as a lot of the other yellow decks. And also, I feel like you don't draw a card because every single card, none of the cards you play like the big boy, like let's use the 8-drop cell. That is fantastic. Well, it doesn't draw for like playing it. Obviously, if you've got like the cell negate, then yeah, you can draw one. But that's like the only card you can draw from. Like the
Yeah,
I
I
like to
do
say
agree. I can see that being an issue for the deck.
yeah,
The draw power isn't too great.
yeah, the draw power is rubbish. But you're right, there is some really good tools. Like there's, but I just feel like it needs a little bit more love. But the 8-drop cell, that is fantastic. That can go in more than this deck
Yeah.
because it evolves on 8 or less cell for one colorless. So what will happen is that card will be used in any other and because it's crit, like think of the green cell reboot leader. You could play the 6-drop, get double strike, whatever, if you want to, or like let's say you play the multicolored 4 cost one, and then just pay one and evolve this on top. Like fine, like you don't need to worry about the activate main. You've got a 25k crit. Like again, it, it's a bit like that, really. It's up to you what you want to do, but you can still like use a battle card from underneath it to combo. So the only thing is, you only get the activate main skills if it's a Sal games card. So like, let's say you evolved it on top of the 4-cost multicolored one, you can still swing and combo with one of the cards underneath it because it says when a player attacks, use up to one battle card from under this card in a combo. So you get some amazing effects that way around. So I think the 8-drop style is the most impressive thing about it, and it's crit and deflect. Great.
Yeah. So what you're going to find is when the set gets released, you've got Pete on Team Gohan, and you're going to have me and Ollie on Team Cell. We're
Facts.
gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna see who ends up being right on this one. I think it might be
Definitely.
Pete, but like I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna say like it's gonna be Cell, and I want to kind of convince you a bit more of Cell. So how about we talk about the SCR reveal? Metamorphic Android Cell. This is worth reading out because it's an SCR. If you have 3 or more energy when this card is played, choose one of your opponent's battle cards ignoring barrier, place it under this card, play 2 Cell Junior tokens. They get 20k power for the game. So Cell Junior tokens are 10k, they go to 30k, and they've got 5k combo. You tap 2 to play it if your leader is green or an Android card, and as an activate main, choose one battle card under this card and remove it from the game. And this card gains all of the chosen keyword skills for the turn. Remember, this is a green card with a 3 specified green cost as well. If you wanted to, for some reason, just play, because it is a Cell Games card. So you could play it for 3 green energy in the Cell deck. But I this SCR feels underwhelming, gentlemen, in my opinion.
You pay it for the activate main in yellow cell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The two.
I do agree. It's definitely an underwhelming one, but I do think it has some very small perks that means that it might actually end up seeing play. I think the first one is the fact that it's a cell game, so you might in some worlds play it in the new deck because you can trigger your leader off of it. You can get some battle cards under that you can take keywords from that aren't necessarily the one you steal. But also you can stick this under some of your other battle cards if you want to take the activate main there. I don't think there's a way to recycle it back from the drop, though, if you do that.
No.
I think the coolest application for this card is using Pernicious Prodigy or something like that.
Progeny.
Yeah. The 1-cost extra card that is yellow from, again, that old Cell Expert deck.
Expert deck, man. The worst leader in the game, quote unquote.
Yeah. It's got an activate battle where you pop 2 Cell Junior tokens, and then for each one that you destroy, you get to rest 2 cards, so you can in theory rest 2 energy, which we all know Begama's banned. The main issue with it being that it's activate battle, so you do still get floodgated before you get to do anything with that, but it's pretty cool.
You can do it on your opponent's turn as well, though, because it's activate battle and tap 2 of their energy if they do something first, throw them off their big power play. And this is genuinely could be classed as legacy support for that old expert deck Cell, because it was based on like Cell Junior tokens that you'd like nuke to bring back that is actually a way of recurring this, I think. I know it can't because it's 10 cost, I think it has to be 9 or lower, but you recur like a Cell from the drop and discard a random card out your opponent's hand by popping a Cell Junior token with Cell Games Arena that you mentioned earlier when you were having me on.
I think this is one of those SCRs where it probably won't see all that much play, similar to the Majin Buu SCR from last set, but because of the fact that it works generically in Android decks, there's probably a couple that actually want to play this card over like some others, or that just like didn't have a great secret rare beforehand. Ones that spring to mind in particular are red Android decks, because they don't have access to Vegito. I think.
Yeah. I was looking at Android 13 when it gets all the anniversary support as well. This is an Android card for like its play cost. This card could go crazy in that deck for 2 energy, like on top of your like, because you're really energy efficient with your big 7-cost Android 13 swinging and comboing stuff.
Yeah.
This card could go crazy in that deck, to be fair.
Yeah, Red Non-Saiyans really don't have the best SCR options. It's generally ending up just being Pan. And they also don't tend to have the best barrier removal. So I think this card could end up being a nice slot in for some red Android decks here and there.
Yeah, for sure. Any other thoughts on this card? I think that kind of sums it up. It's pretty underwhelming, but it's got some niche applications, right?
Yeah, and I do think, even though I personally would still run it in the Sal deck for this set. Personally,
yeah, I think it's possible that you do as well. Yeah.
But yeah, it's niche, but it's cool. I'm happy Sal has got his 3rd SCR. If I count Sal's,
artwork's sick as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we'll get like a yellow Frieza one next set as well, with like all of his forms on it as well. Because then you got like Boo, Cell, and Frieza with like SCRs, all their forms on, which is like really cool.
Yeah. And then unban set 1 Frieza, and then we have a good time.
There we go. That's all we need, Bandai. Just unban Golden Frieza, unban Cell Surge, and then we've got the SCRs for their relevant decks, right?
Yes.
Moving to our final set of spoilers on colour, we have got the first lot of red. We've got the first red deck. We got the last of the spoilers today. Honestly, guys, I'm going to skip over the fact that we have a new deck to begin with, because there's one card in particular that we probably have one of the most perfect people on the podcast. So I'm going to skip past the whole deck for now and all the other stuff. And I want to jump straight to Android 17 and Frieza, Momentary Kinship Legends, MKL, which is an energy exhaust blocker, main deck unison, a permanent where this card is treated as an extra when in your deck drop or warp. When this card is played, activate up to 1 Tournament of Power Arena from your deck and then shuffle your deck. And then a +1 to discard a card from your hand At the start of your opponent's main phase, draw a card, switch one of your leaders and up to one of your energy to active mode, and your leader gains blocker for the turn. Pete, yourself, and probably the whole Invoker community have been waiting for the longest time. I think it's from like literally when Unisons first came out, everyone was like, "Where is my
Yeah.
multicolor Unison?" The first multicolor Unison in the game. Probably one of the first reactions out there from in terms of a true Invoker player as well to the core. I'll stop talking now. Pete, tell me all about this card.
Yeah, it was nice to see obviously what Legends had planned. Definitely not the direction I thought he would go, because I still feel like we need a boss monster. So I'm surprised he went with a Unison as well, because again, for anyone that's played Invoker, Unisons don't tend to be cards we want to run, because we want to be in battle every turn, which is probably why the leaders got blocker. Because of course, for anyone that might have forgot, we like to cycle by discarding an extra card, it's activate battle, draw a card, and we get a 5k power boost. So obviously we want to keep doing that every single battle to cycle through the deck, getting the relevant cards in the drop and finding what we need to. So I think there's two things to take away from this card. So first of all, it activates TOP, which is one of the most important things ever. Because this is what we should have done. We should have done from set 9, because that was you pay 1 blue and you search your deck for TOP. If it activated it, it would have 100% be ran in the deck. But because it doesn't, it's trash. This is really good because it allows you to potentially run less TOPs, so you could run maybe 2 or 3, and then run 4 of these, for example. So there are a couple of options for you. Then it's very relevant that this card is an extra card in your deck, drop or warp, because you can pick it up with your leader skill. When you look at the top card of your deck through like Death Beam, for example, or any of the other, I don't want to call them check lands, but the check extra cards in the drop, you reveal top card. Yeah. If it's an extra card, multicolored extra card, you add it to your hand.
Yeah.
And this also kicks in for that as well. So that's really cool. So I love like that, those effects. The downside is it is a unison, which feels counterproductive a little bit for the deck. But I think one thing to also bear in mind, and most importantly, even though I am OG Invoker leader player, one of the key things to take away from this deck, from anyone that's from this this unison, is the fact that none of that so far, or none of this ability is limited to OG Invoker. So you can run this in any deck. Like none of this. Now, Tournament of Power does require you to be a U7 leader, but if you think about this, any deck that charges red or blue, especially if you're U7, can run this card perfectly. So the shitty fake Invoker from that 20, 22, whatever it was, the Android 17
Set
could
20,
run this card. Yeah. You've got the Android 17 blue that was also in set 9 that's been heavily overlooked. And because you need certain amount of cards in the drop to get, is a double strike crit. I forgot the exact order because I've never played that leader, but you need certain cards in the drop, which this helps facilitate as well. So I think one thing to take away from this is, yes, it's a fantastic card for Invoker, like the traditional Invoker. However, I think people should definitely be exploring this card outside of the OG Invoker as well. I think it's a great card, and like you said, it's a multicolored the extra, which we always thought we would have got months and months and months and months ago, but we never did. So the fact we have it is now. The auto is fine. I am a bit concerned about how easy this will be to die to, like if you're against green or Kidku. That I need to test the card. Like this came out today, and I've just come back from One Piece, so I haven't printed it off. I haven't even looked at a deck list yet, but I am excited for it. both in OG Invoker and other decks, basically. But the only thing that triggers me, and this is again why, like, for anyone that listens to me cast about zones, I really hate when Bandai does this with characters, where their names are the one way around for the character look. So obviously Freeze is on the left and Android's on the right. So it should be Freezer and Android 17. Like the Vegex leader is exactly the same. It really bugs me. It really does, and I hate that so much. So, the only thing I will say, Legends, is you should have changed the name the other way around, or changed the. Again, I don't know how
Made it
much you had.
shorter, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how
we were
much
chatting
impact.
about that earlier.
Yeah, I don't know how much impact you had on the name or the picture. I assume all off it. But yeah, I personally would have said the other way around. So in this case, Freezer and Android 17, and then obviously the rest of it. So that's the only thing that triggers me. But I like the art. I like the. I hope this black border stays there at the bottom. But anyway, I'm just loving the art now. You know, like right at the bottom, there's like a black.
It's framed quite nicely.
Yeah. Obviously, it'll go great with max rarity Invoker decks. But yeah, I've spoken already quite a lot about this card. So yes, I'm excited. I have got a bit of concerns, but until I play test it, I won't know how much it matters. One of the big weaknesses, in my opinion, with an OG Invoker is killing people. Like, I think the win condition is a bit weak now. This will only help me to survive to the late game, but it won't get me a win. So I am concerned about it a little bit, but we'll see.
Yeah, like if you're listening, Michael, mate, just go back and win another Worlds. If you can just get the name changed around for us and just print this card again for your next Worlds winning card, but call it Freezer and Android 17, so we're not quite as triggered by it, yeah. And then you just want a win condition as well for your deck as well, right, Pete?
Yeah, personally, right, I would have liked a minus on this, and obviously I'm gonna say it because everyone. No, not even that. Just give my leader Invoker.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, sure.
Let's say -3 to go with similar cost to MVP.
-3.
-3. My leader's got Invoker until the end of
That's
your
not something
turn.
I'm investing in. No.
I'm sorry, Pete, but I'm out, mate.
Nah. But that I would have liked to have seen a minus on this personally, or maybe even like another. I will say, like, again, it's not my card, right? It's Legends card, so he's the one that's designed it. But I also would like a way to Z-charge extra card, so it could even be when you activate a multicolored red blue
like that, yeah.
+1 Z-charge it or something like that, maybe. However, maybe I'll have to win a Worlds and I can make my own Unison, and then people don't need to run this one, right?
There's no other way to assert your dominance like that. Like, win Worlds the next year and just make this card but better in every way.
It's exactly the same, but it's a 20k.
I'm not gonna lie, that feels something the King of Invoker should do, right?
That would be doing our man dirty for sure. I'm all here for it.
But no, I'm looking forward to testing this out. I'm definitely gonna be buying it, and I'm definitely hyped.
I don't know about you guys, but I have this thought in my head of Michael making this card after he wins Worlds, and then literally Bandai just laughing, rubbing their hands together as they just bring out Kid Ku next set that just negs this off the board in 2 moves. Sure, buddy. You want to make it a 2-coster? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah, no. Great idea, mate. Really, really cool idea.
Just the +1. That's no worries. Yeah, go for it.
+1 marker. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's only green you got to worry about then, isn't it? No. 15k power. Yeah, do it, bro.
Well, that is the big concern. I need to know how long this will or won't survive. And it's like if you're against Trunks, the Alliance, the new one, the Alliance, it can run that counterplay. The one that removes 2 markers of a Unison.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Maybe again, Legends probably had the mind. Maybe the whole point of this is mostly just to bring out TOP, because I know that this is something that we wanted for a long time. Like, as a general rule of thumb for like Invoker players. So
Yeah.
maybe the whole point is not any like the others are like extra nice things, or maybe it's just there just to make TOP actually work. So against the decks like the Kidku or the Greens, it's like, you want to kill my Unison? That's fine. We don't care. We've got our TOP, and that's all that matters. But we'll see.
Right. So we've spent more time talking about one card than we have done like both of the other archetypes thus far.
How long
It's
have we
worth
been waiting
doing.
for this support, though, bro? Like
It's worth doing.
Invoker has not had any freaking love, and it's taken a world's card to get any love to us. Like, come on,
You want to know
support
another?
Invoker, Bandai.
I
You
know.
want
I
to know
saw some
another
red
deck?
blue extra cards last set.
Yeah, come on, man. You had some red blue extra cards as part of the Gogeta thing. Like, pipe down. You have plenty of support.
There
You
was
need
even
it
an Invoker card in last set.
You can play
It said
Pan into House
there was
of
more
Fate or
Invoker
whatever it
last set
is.
than on this card.
Yeah,
That's
I was so
broken bit of support,
excited for
bro.
that card. Oh well.
Speaking of old decks, which are finally getting a bit of love after so very long, but not needing someone to win worlds to give them the support. Let's talk about Red Freezer Swap. Now, this gives me a bit of nostalgia, gives me a bit of the loving vibes here. I remember when Clash of Fates, that old extra set came out, and we saw this 5-cost freezer with both double strike and critical on it, and we all collectively lost our minds and creamed ourselves at the same time. That also had a bloodlust effect on it. Like, it was pretty broken, but
Yeah.
you know, flash forward another 22 odd sets, and Red Freezer Swap just isn't quite the same deck anymore. But it gets a Z leader this set and a really cool 3-cost as well. I love these cards, and this is like really ideal support. Like, I don't think this deck is going to be tier 1 meta breaking or anything, but a Z leader that lets you replace the life that you crit to use the 5 drops effect, free play a 3-cost 15k power freezer army from your hand, so one of the other new bits of support, and the 3-cost on the swap chain, and draw a card and give a freezer battle card 5k whenever you activate swap. Feels pretty good. That like ticks every box that I kind of want ticking for that old leader.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this goes back to like, I think Bandai. I am loving how they're doing legacy support right now, and yeah, they sometimes do a leader that's like one set ago, right? And yeah, I'm sure nobody probably asked for this leader support, but and yeah, I won't play this leader, but I'm so happy. Like, I'm happy that people have got this.
Someone out
You
there
know,
is super hyped about
yeah,
this card.
yeah. I mean, it'll be the
Me,
same
I'm the
like.
person out there who's super hyped.
And you're right, Joe. I remember, right? So I remember when the set 9, I think it was set 9, the freezer, because there was some like the planet wrecker. I remember when that card was revealed, everybody was like, buy the 5-drop bloodlust, because there was a hint of swap. I forgot. I think it was set 9. I forgot the exact like set because it was such a long time ago. Because even I did. So they were brought out everywhere, and I paid so much more for the 5 drops.
I know what it is. It's that it was the TP in set 9, the
Was that
regional
what it
promo,
was?
Mutable
Right.
Menace, which was like a tap of blue
Yes, yeah,
and
yeah,
remove a freezer from the drop to play the
What it
5
was,
plus from your
right?
hand.
yeah.
So you could like play it for like 1 energy basically once you got
Yeah.
Mutable Menace in the drop, and everyone was like, "This is crazy! It's so good!" Like, and the card
Yeah.
like. Like, you have the old Clash of Fates. They cost a load of money now, but like, the old artwork with like they're like yelling their attack names on it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like Final
It's over,
Showdown Freezer.
Freezer. But yeah, it was I think it's one of the only times I've ever brought into hype, and and since then I've like never done it again. Like,
Actively
because
been punished for buying into hype.
yeah, because it was such a long time ago. I just saw it and was like, oh my god, this is going to be crazy broken, like craziness. And after it happened and it failed, I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
So unless I believe like in it, like properly, and this is why I'm already like I've just come back, but I haven't tested anything red. But this is obviously why. Obviously, I said earlier, I've already tested Cell Games. I've already tested the Gohan. I've obviously tested Green already, so I know an idea of if these decks are going to be good or not, so I know if to buy into it, or at least if I want to, should I say? But yeah, I'm so happy that it's got support, and I'm happy that the way Bandai are doing it. I'm obviously, I wouldn't mind some Invoker more love, but
Just can't
it's
get
great
enough,
to
can
see.
he?
No. It's great that they're willing to add support for like a TB. Is it TB1? TB.
Yeah, I think so. Something like that, right?
Yeah, TV1 or TV2.
Yeah, but either one. I've said it before on one of the podcasts or casting I've probably done with any number of people. I love Traitor Dende, and I would love some more. I'd love some support because that deck has not had any love in a long time, and that's the kind of age this deck is. Probably a bit older. No, maybe the same.
They're the same set, aren't they?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
like,
Traitor Dende came out because it was also that because you also had like the Piccolo fuse with Nail SR that came out at the same time as like
yeah.
because it was like the Red Freezer deck was based on Namek, and then so was like the Dende Wish one as well.
Yeah.
Maybe one set over in like the
Oh, around that,
but...
yeah. But that's the thing, right? It's like obviously I love Toa. Well, the anniversary OG one, and obviously with anniversary sport. So I love when Bandai do this. I mean, out of all the, sometimes we do give them a bit of jiff here and there. Sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not. But like the fact they're willing to give some, like, yeah, it's only 2 cards, but sometimes that's all you need. Look at Cell. We said it last week. Cell got a regional promo and then is winning events. Like this probably ain't gonna win events, but it goes from not being able to play it to win games to locals to potentially winning games at locals, right? So, happy days.
And fundamentally, that's kind of what a lot of this legacy sport's designed for, is like being able to turn up and have competitive games against decks which are in and around the top tables. Like even if you're not necessarily favored to win a lot of those games, like with this support, you can turn it with Freezer Swap and you can catch someone off guard and be like, I bet you didn't know this deck did this. Like, no, nobody knows this deck did this. It's that kind of cool thing with it. So, like, I'm really, really love the Z Leader. Lovely 3-drop as well. It's very weak, but like, it can get disrupted easily, but it gives you a lot of like aggro push as well. We are getting on a bit, so I guess we will dig ourselves into this other red Goku deck for the 5th time, I guess. Son Goku and Android 18 Unexpected Tag Team is our first red reveal, and obviously next week we'll get to you with the rest of those and any of the black and blue reveals that we're waiting for now, as well as the other couple of SCRs.
The 2 colors that I like. Let's go.
We've finally made it through the mud to get there for you.
Yeah.
But first we have to talk about this mud, Ollie. Let's talk about this deck. Seems really underwhelming to me off the bat. This red Goku deck. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but there's a couple of cute SRs in here that you can do extra stuff with. Searching extra cards is always really good when Explosive Dance exists and you have a dedicated Z extra card to make that work, but I don't know. You don't seem to be getting enough advantage. You have to discard to play your dudes from the drop. So you're not really like net gaining a card, you're counting on the card being played to get your advantage. That's my very like gut reaction, but let me know what you guys think.
Yeah, I do agree that the fact that you have to rely on your discarded cards coming into play, having the energy open to play them, to even be able to plus in hand size is a big issue for the deck. I have a rare little bit of hope for a red deck, which does not happen too often. Because I actually look at this deck and get quite interested in playing it myself. I think the fact that, first of all, you get to activate battle on extra cards for your turn and your opponent's turn when you play a guy from the drop, because it's until the end of your opponent's turn, is really strong.
Yeah.
All of the extra cards are not crazy. They're just like weird power boost things here and there. There is one of them that draws a card, which is something that I'm looking at because that kind of makes up for the fact that you're not drawing necessarily off your leader, but you can still plus off your leader draw discard thing.
Draw 2, discard 2 is one of them. Double strike explosion.
Yes, yeah, and exploding energy is you get to draw a card by giving one of your GT cards minus 15k, and then you board wipe minus 10k as well. So that's really nice, just mainly for the draw. But also the fact that you're not limited to these extra cards. You can run like Freeze's Death Ball, you can run Realm of the Gods, which draws on defense, I think, in red. So there are ways to kind of turn your leader into a leader that draws, along with the fact that you can kind of draw off of the draw discard thing that plays the battle cards out. The deck has a lot of cycling going on, but I do think, I think the main thing is the fact that you're going to have to set up your own draw power, which I'm not sure how much that'll hinder the deck.
And I think we found this back, and again, I've ended up back with Gogeta and Sin, right? But like, I think we found this back then when we had Android 13 came out after that deck, right? And Android 13 was a really strong deck. Like, it was really powerful for what it did, but it suffered from the idea that it just wasn't Gogeta or Sin. And Gogeta and Sin were just that much more powerful that it didn't really matter what Android 13 did. And I feel like this deck kind of falls into that pitfall a bit again, where it's like, it does some cool things, it does some powerful stuff. I really like the interaction with Death Ball. In fact, that's like a really good, like, sort of swinging combo power and attack power and whatnot, as well as like the discard synergies. But it's just going to fundamentally suffer from this. Just isn't as strong as what Kid Coup puts out, and unless something happens ban list wise or errata wise, it just suffers from not being Kid Coup.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I'm also starting to notice that a lot of these decks, Dragon Ball is a game that draws a lot, but a lot of these decks are, like this one in particular, along with the Cell, they're going through their decks very, very quickly, just because that's naturally what they're trying to do with their mechanics. And that does make me a little bit cautious when it comes to Peter being with us on the podcast.
What's quite funny is that as you were talking, I was thinking that for the audience at home, I think the thing they should take away from this is anything you like, don't play. Because it's like you wanted Sal, then you want this. It's like, no. I mean, to be fair, I haven't had the opportunity to test, and I'll be honest, I haven't, because I've been away. I haven't, like, I've glimpsed over them. So I think on this, I don't have any opinion outside of the deck. Skimming across feels boring. It feels like Halku, and it feels like trying to be red extra card Broly. Now, obviously, that is just a wild assumption based on just skimming over a couple of cards. So take that as a grain of salt, if you like, or pinch of salt, should I say? Because I don't have a proper opinion on the deck outside of it. I'm not hyped for this, and I feel like red is going to be a really boring color. This set.
Yeah,
and
I
not
think
just this set, bro. Don't worry about it.
I like skill coup or skillless coup. Personally, I don't mind that deck, but yeah.
Yeah, I think like with Kid Coup, they kind of hit like a really nice thing where it's a very nostalgic character to build around, and it does a fun thing. Just maybe not when you're playing against it with a 1-cost Unison to awaken, right? There's a couple of SRs which I will give a little bit of credit to before we just sign off on the fact that this Goku deck is particularly unexciting. The 4-drop Goku SR is a deflect triple strike, which when it's discarded by one of your or your opponent's effects, it gets played from the drop and gains barrier for 2 red. And then when you or your opponent activates a skill on an extra card with an energy cost of 1, choose 2 cards from all the cards in your opponent's battle cards and unisons and give them minus 15k. So you've got a bit of like inbuilt hand control hate there, and a bit of disruption, and it also gains barrier, so it can't be kind of wiped off the board in your opponent's turn. It's kind of something useful. The 18 as well is kind of there's this really weird thing where all of the GT characters are called their character in GT. Android 18, even if she's GT, is just always called Android 18. So this 6-drop dual attacking Android 18 that you play for 1, if your leader's red, and you have 3 or more energy, and you place 3 red extras from your drop under it. This can be used in like the old Android red decks, like the 17 and 18 deck that was, again, it was one of those decks which is really good, but it just fell short of not quite being the best aggro deck in the format. So this is another little handy boost to that, because you can go over this with like extra Android cards and stuff like that. Like, people who are well versed in that deck will be able to talk more to that, but there's a couple of legacy support ideas kind of weaved into these cards and general help for red. But overall, as a deck concept, I'm not particularly impressed.
Yeah, I think the Android 18 might be kind of a nice support for Freezer Prism, because you have red extra cards, obviously. So I kind of like. I mean, again, I don't think it's gonna do much for the deck, but again, it's just that little bit of like passive support that might be relevant. I mean, it's still a dual attacker, and it's in a deck that runs full of extra cards. So I think it's I think there's definitely an interesting application there, and you brought up some points that, I mean, I don't know much about the Android side of Red, so I don't know as much as you on that aspect, but yeah, I think it's kind of cool, and I'm sure it's very relevant, but yeah, obviously there's only one good SR in Red so far, obviously.
Yeah. I think that kind of does it for our thoughts on all the spoilers there, gentlemen, unless anyone has anything else to add.
Yeah, I think so.
Amazing.
Yeah, more Invoker support, thanks.
Yeah, that's literally it. Just more Invoker support. Just win worlds, bro. It's fine.
True.
I will make a prediction for next week. I
Yeah.
do think the blue legacy support will be Goji to BR, and I think it's going to be multicolored.
Oh, okay. I quite like this, actually. Yeah, quickly before we sign off, Ollie, what's your prediction for legacy support in blue next week?
I really want to say Blue Bojack Sea Leader. Just give it to me already.
Are you thinking
it's
with your
not going
heart
to be
or
that,
with your
though.
head here?
Oh, it's my heart. It's not going to be that. If I had to make a real guess, what would it be? I really don't know. I can't think of like old blue leaders off the top of my head.
I would probably say I'd probably guess with a non-Saiyan blue, maybe, because obviously
that's kind of where I was going as well.
I mean, I would have said boo if we didn't have it last set, but you can't have boo again, really.
What did we have over the last couple of sets as well? Like
Hirudegarn.
Oh my god, it's gonna be like Hirudegarn support, isn't it? But
I mean, Hirudegarn's already got a TP this set as well, so like.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's actually possible, right?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it is, I mean, because the Tapion, the Hirudegarn TP is like a bit random because it's also very expensive too. But you could technically have a set for Z. Is this set for or is this no set for?
Yeah.
You could technically have a Z leader for the set for Hirudegarn.
That'd be pretty hype. I know Tom would be excited.
yeah, and obviously because it's locked to him. Well, I guess one thing not to like drag this on, but one thing to take is all legacy supports have one Z leader, and then something else.
One support card, yeah.
Z cards in general have got to be kind of the gold standard for legacy support, in my opinion. Like, I think that if you've got to draw into the 4 copies of the one busted card in your entire deck, then it just feels bad.
And
then you just don't draw it and you're playing a set 3 deck and you're like, oh well.
We keep going back to that with the Cell regional promo of it makes the deck really, really good, but in those games where you don't draw it early and you have the same hand size as you normally would, it's like, I'm just playing Cell from beforehand, right?
You're playing the deck from like 8 sets ago, and they're just getting like stomped by Kid Ku, and you're like, crap.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make my prediction. I think it's gonna be Goku Black reboot. I think they've been pushing this deck for ages because they released it as an expert deck, and they keep on prodding it with support. I think a couple of the Zamasu cards can be used in it as well from like last week. So
only thing with that is he's already got a Z leader. So that would kind of break the mold.
Yeah, it maybe would do, but I think they're still going to give Print a couple of like little like support battle cards because he's already got the Z leader, he's already got the Z battle cards. Like I think he's just going to get a couple of like broken battle cards or something.
Fair.
They just keep on pushing it.
Cool.
We'll
Right.
see you next week.
Absolutely. So thank you again so much, everybody, for tuning in, giving us a listen, giving us a watch, whatever you are listening or watching, whether it's YouTube or Spotify. As you can see here, it is getting quite late. The UK is starting to get dark at this time again, which is very upsetting. But next week, I think we'll be coming to you with probably the rest of these spoilers. And we may or may not be having a little bit of a discussion on the upcoming ban list as well, and anything else that happens in between. So, from me and the rest of the guys here at Skip Charge, thank you so much again for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.
Yeah.
Bye.